back to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my review of the new Fenty Pro Filt'r Hydrating Longwear Foundation. That is a mouthful. And I'm excited about this one because, as you guys know, Fenty released the matte formula of this last year, which was their first foundation. And even though the shade was such a perfect shade match for me, the formula was just a little bit too matte for my skin. So when I heard that they were launching this, I knew I had to grab it. When Fenty Beauty released 50 Shades last year, it was really incredible, and it definitely encouraged other brands to kind of follow suit. But the other thing that I want to say is this shade range, so the shade 290 is what I am during like the fall, winter, spring months. That shade is probably the perfect match I've ever had for my skin ever. I've had foundations come close to matching my skin perfectly, but the shade 290 is incredible. And the reason why I say that is that they were able to find the best combination for an olive and a warm tone. So 290 is described as a warm olive undertone, and they just found that perfect combination. It's not too yellow, it's not too green, it's like the perfect undertone. Well, for my summer shade, I actually chose 300. It is a medium to tan skin with a warm undertone, so it kind of dropped the olive, and it's perfect. Like, this foundation looks exactly like my skin. You can't see any lines of demarcation. Sometimes when I'm wearing a foundation, I like to blend it down into my neck. You know how that goes. With this one, it was such a perfect match that I didn't even really need to do that. So I definitely appreciate the fact that they don't change their shades. So if you know your shade in the matte formula, you will know your shade in the hydrating formula, which I really appreciate. They did the exact same thing when they launched the concealer, and I was so grateful because if I knew my shade in the foundation, I would know exactly the right shade for my concealer, and same type of thing with this foundation. And I feel like every brand should just follow suit with that. Like, make it so much easier with all these shades. So before I get into the details about the foundation, I am 40 years old and I have dry normal skin. Right now I'm a little bit more on the normal side. I have hyperpigmentation, adult acne. I definitely have, you know, some creeping skin starting up. I like that radiant, hydrating foundation, but I also need it to be long wearing. I like it to last for 12 hours or longer. And also, I don't like it slipping and sliding all over my face. I'm only able to wear this foundation for 2 days. Normally, I test out my foundations for 3 to 4, but I don't know what it was. I don't know if all the brands got together and said, hey, let's launch a new foundation in August. I don't know what it was, but there's been so many new foundations that are right up my alley. Like the radiant, glowy, but lay down, stay down. Like, I love it. I've been testing out a ton of foundations recently, and I have a few more to test, and I wanted to get them kind of tested and know what they are before the Sephora sale launches. I'm starting with the Fenty Beauty foundation. I have the Milk Stick Foundation that just launched, I don't know, a couple days ago. And then I also have the Kevyn Aucoin, the Balm Foundation. Now, if you guys watched my Nordstrom haul video yesterday, that video, I tried it, but it was too light. It was a really light shade. For me to give an accurate impression about that foundation, I had to have the right shade, and that shade was just way too light. Like, I look like a ghost. So I went ahead and ordered another shade. So I will be reviewing the Fenty Beauty foundation, the Kevyn Aucoin, the Balm, and the Milk foundation before the sale starts next week. So I only have 2 days per foundation to test them out. I'd like to do as many and then maybe do like one big video kind of going through all of the foundations and narrowing them all down and kind of giving you them, kind of ranking them based on coverage, long wear, and kind of just putting them all into one video. So I will definitely be doing that probably after the sale starts, once I get through testing. Now that we got that out of the way, let's jump into the information about this foundation really quick. So as you guys know, of course, this foundation has 50 shades, just like the Pro Filt'r foundation. This foundation retails for $35 for 32 mils, which is 1.08 fluid ounces. So that makes this foundation $1.09 per milliliter. That's a pretty decent price for being a higher ended brand that's sold at Sephora, and it doesn't come in a glass bottle. So as you know, the Pro Filt'r matte formula comes in a glass bottle. This one is not a glass bottle, which, I mean, it's cool. I like this packaging. It doesn't matter to me. This is a hydrating long wear foundation that delivers comfortable medium to full coverage in a natural finish finish, perfect for normal to dry skin. So it does say down in the skin type that normal, dry, and combination skin can wear this. So I will let you guys know in my final thoughts if I feel like this might be something that somebody with combination skin would consider. Now, it is a long-lasting coverage and hydration in 50 shades, each delivered in a portable tube. Get a perfectly smooth, natural-looking finish that lets skin look like skin. So it also has grapeseed oil in it, which is nice. I think that's what gives it the hydration. So that's it for the information. Let's head into the application portion of the video, and I'm gonna do a 6-hour check-in and then a 12-hour check-in after wearing it for the 2 days and let you guys know my full final thoughts on it. So without further ado, let's jump right into the application. Okay, so I just got back from Sephora and I went to pick this up as soon as it was available. I was there like 5 minutes after they opened and they were pulling it out of the box. So I am so excited to try this because the regular formula was a little bit too matte for me. Okay, so that's what 2 pumps look like. I accidentally did 2 pumps because I was trying to get the air to the top. So that's what 2 pumps look like. And on one side of the face, I'm going to apply it with a brush and on the other with a sponge. Now, I did just apply my Bobbi Brown Vitamin Rich Face Base primer just so that I could kind of get that primer out of the way. So I'm going to first go in with the sponge, and I do have the Fenty sponge. Now, I didn't buy the brush just because I'm in love with this foundation brush. This is the IT Cosmetics number 7 Heavenly Luxe brush, so I don't really need a new brush. So I'm going to go ahead and use her sponge. And the only thing that stinks about a sponge is it just soaked it all up. Like, now that I've gotten used to applying foundation with a brush, like, it's hard for me to apply with a sponge now just because I lose so much coverage. That's 1 pump right there. So not very much comes out in 1 pump, so just know that. It's a little bit thick and heavy in this area. It looks beautiful though. I mean, it looks really pretty and the shade matches me perfectly. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better shade. So I'm gonna go on this side with a brush, and I feel like a brush, I'm going to apply a thinner application, and I think the thinner application will look better on me. Like, on this side, it's a little bit heavy in this area, which is where I'm starting to age and stuff. This side looks so much better because it's just an even thin layer. And this side is just a little bit heavy, and I'll show you when I pull you guys closer, but you know, I love the finish. It does have like a radiant finish to it. Even though it has that radiance feeling to it, it's still kind of a little bit of a thicker consistency, and so I gotta be careful when applying a thicker consistency foundation on my wrinkles. If I get too thick in that area, it will exaggerate, you know, my wrinkles and my creeping skin and stuff. So I kind of want to make sure that I have just an even thin layer. It does kind of feel just a little teeny bit heavy in my creeping skin and around my wrinkles, but not much. Like, it's not like horrible, but you know, just be mindful of that if you're older and you have, you know, some sort of creeping skin, or you have a lot of wrinkles, or whatever the case is, just be mindful that this is one of those that can get thick in those areas. So I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, but like right here in my brows, like I need to kind of fix that, but it can get a little bit heavy, and just the way that it's laying on the skin, that's what I'm noticing, but it's a beautiful radiant finish. Okay, I'm gonna turn off the ring light. I don't know if it's showing up, but you see it kind of gathering around my brows. Like, I gotta fix that, but just know that this is just a little bit heavier of a foundation. That's the only negative that I'm seeing so far. Okay, so that's it for this application portion of the video. I am going to wear this all day today and all day tomorrow. I'm going to come back about a 6-hour mark, kind of halfway checkpoint, and let you guys know how it's wearing, and then I will come back later on after wearing it for 12 hours and both days and give you guys my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay everyone, I am back for a midday check-in. It is almost 5 o'clock. So I applied this, I would say right around 11 o'clock is probably when I got done. I'm very shiny, and when they say it's hydrating, it's very hydrating, and it's definitely a very like shiny hydrating foundation. I didn't apply any of this Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder just because I kind of wanted to see what the foundation would do, and it's definitely kind of dewy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some of this on just so that you guys can see what it'll look like. I think I'm going to do it on half of the face for those of you that wear a little bit of finishing powder. So I'm going to go down into the finishing powder and kind of just put that over this side before I move you guys in so you can see the difference. Little bit of this and go around my nose. This one does exaggerate pores, and like I said in the application, the texture of this foundation, I was worried about it kind of wearing heavy a little bit around here, and it is. I could definitely tell as I was applying it that it was one of those that would do that, and it is. So as I pull you in, you'll see that like it's showing every pore that I have on my chin. It's exaggerating a lot of texture through here. And it's definitely a foundation that exaggerates my pores, and I don't really have enlarged pores. Automatically, the powder kind of stopped that. When I pull you in, you'll see, but immediately the powder just kind of smoothed that out, so it wasn't exaggerating as bad. But I do not like the way it looks on my chin. It looks really pretty everywhere else. It's just my chin area. This is the powdered side, and as you can see, you can see every little dot and every pore on this side of my face. Where I applied that powder, it kind of calmed that down a little bit where it wasn't so shiny and exaggerating every texture. You can kind of see that on the forehead, so it looks much more smooth than it does without the powder. Let's turn off the ring light. So I went ahead and turned off the ring light. I'm just sitting in front of a window. It's not direct sunlight. And I just have 2 umbrella lights sitting in the corner and then just room light above me. And so this is definitely more of a natural lighting situation. It does look really natural. And as you can tell, this side just looks so much better when I applied just a little bit of that powder. On this side, it's just really, really shiny. Like, this is a very, very shiny foundation, and I did not apply any setting spray or anything like that. The only thing I applied was the foundation, and you know, I didn't want to really put anything over it because I only have 2 days to test this. Shine is kind of nice because it does give kind of a healthy glow, but because the foundation doesn't really, in my opinion, have like that filter effect where it kind of will go over the pores and kind of smooth things out. This one doesn't do that personally. Like, I haven't had that experience with it. I mean, you can see that it really exaggerates every texture and pore. But the thing that I will say that's positive about this is that it has not really moved around. It is set down, so I can tell that this is going to be a long-wearing foundation. I haven't really had any problems with it feeling like it's going to get patchy or pull away from the skin or anything like that. Do kind of feel like it's going to start creasing here very soon. It just exaggerates my wrinkles. It exaggerates my pores. I think this is a beautiful foundation. I don't know that it's like my favorite yet. Like, it might be one that I might have to tweak a little bit. Now, I did apply my Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base underneath this. You know, for those of you that don't really like that shine, it might be something that you could wear. It's hydrating enough that you could probably wear like a mattifying primer to maybe calm down some of the shine. Maybe what I'll try to do is tomorrow I will apply my normal, you know, my normal primer, but then on the other side, I'm gonna find like a pore filling primer or something and apply it on one side so we can kind of test that and see if that will make this better. Because the way it is now, I like it, but I don't absolutely love it. So I'm gonna kind of tweak with it and kind of play with it tomorrow, and then I might do a midday check-in tomorrow. It just depends on how my day goes. I do have to go do some shopping with my daughter, so it just depends. But if not, I will definitely give you guys the full rundown in my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. So I am back for my final thoughts on the foundation. Today is my day 2 of wearing it. It is 10:30 at night. I probably applied it around 10 o'clock this morning, so it's probably been just about 12 hours. And I have a lot to say about this foundation. There's some good and bad with the foundation. I just got back from a high school football game, so I still have my hat on. I always have to wear a hat because the sun's always in my face and it drives me nuts. So yeah, maybe I can take off my hat and not have hat hair. What do you guys think? Yeah, not so much. Hat hair aside, we're gonna get into the rundown about the foundation. So I put on the hat, I would say probably about, I haven't worn the hat all day. I probably put it on, I don't know, like 7 o'clock-ish. So I have been wearing it for a couple of hours. My brows are a hot mess. We're not gonna talk about the brows either. I've been shopping all day. My daughter kind of back to school shopping, and I hate it, you guys. I hate shopping. Like, am I the only one that doesn't like to shop? Oh, I'm such an online buyer. Like, I hate going into stores and people around me, and it's just obnoxious and annoying. I like this foundation. There are some things that are tricky about it, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. First things first, I am so glad that Fenty has a hydrating foundation out. Only because the shade matches me so dang good, you guys. Like, I know I've been saying this entire video, but this shade is like a perfect match. That aside, there are some problematic things with this foundation, and number one, it can get really cakey. As you will see in this footage I took this morning of me applying this, went in with a really thin layer. So if you have texture, wrinkles like around here, you know, if you have more mature skin, I recommend going in very lightly with this foundation. Don't use a sponge. The problem with the sponge, I'm sure you guys know this, even though you do get a really smooth finish, the problem with the sponge, you can apply more than you think you are. And it can get a little bit tricky with sponge, even though a sponge can kind of pick up some of the extra product sitting on the skin. However, sometimes if you're not careful, you can pack too much on in one area. This is a foundation that definitely creases, and it creases pretty quickly. And it's not like it creases bad, but it's just a creasy foundation. And so you have to be mindful of that. And if you are like me and you have places on your face that show your age more so than other places, I recommend going in very lightly in that area. So yesterday, you guys saw in my 6-hour check-in, I took those images of the way it was sitting on my chin. I did not like that. It was just too thick in that area, and it just kind of sat cakey looking. But today, when I applied just an even thin layer, I didn't have that problem anywhere, which I love that. So this is definitely one, because it is a thicker foundation, I knew right away when you have a foundation that's a thinner consistency, it's less likely to be cakey. This is a thicker foundation. It's not super thick, but it is on the thicker side. And so because of that, it has a tendency to be a little bit on the cakey side. So just be mindful of that, especially if you have texture, wrinkles, stuff like that. I love the coverage. I think the coverage is great. You're not going to want to build up coverage on areas that you have wrinkles, textures. So let's just say, for example, that for me, like, I need my coverage right up here on my forehead because that's where I have my hyperpigmentation. Well, my wrinkles are not really visible up here because I get Botox. So therefore, I don't really need to worry about my foundation getting cakey or settling into a lot of fine lines up there because my forehead is pretty smooth. So therefore, I'm okay and feel comfortable with packing this foundation on those areas. But around here, no way. Like, if you need coverage where you have texture, I would just be, you know, this is one that you're just going to have to accept a medium and not a full. The other problematic thing that I see with this is that it stays shiny all day. So this is not one that sets down. It stays pretty tacky for a really long time. Yesterday I didn't wear any powders and I was just really shiny. And you could see when I did powder on one side of the face, it really helped take down the shine. Today I decided to set this foundation with the Hourglass Veil powder, and I loved it so much better. So here's the thing, if you're somebody that likes that dewier kind of, it's not greasy, but it is pretty dewy. So if you're somebody that likes that, then you're going to be okay with it. But for me, I wanted to kind of break down some of this shine, and just adding a tiny bit of powder just to kind of set it down really, really, really was nice. Like, the thing about this, it is long wearing and it does fade off naturally. So yes, I've lost a lot of coverage, but the thing that I like about this is not one that will kind of break away. As you saw in my review of the Pat McGrath, that like completely separated on my skin. Like you could see where I was missing these little circles all around my face. This one doesn't do that. It just kind of fades off very natural. I like that about it. It's somewhat similar to the Anastasia, the new one. The difference between this one and the Anastasia is this one sets down and this one really doesn't set down unless you put powder down. So if you want this to set down, I recommend putting a nice even layer of some sort of setting powder to kind of set it and lock it. This one, you don't necessarily need powder to lock this one down. The other difference between these two is this one doesn't really crease on me because it is a thinner formula than this one. I like this foundation. I do feel like this is a foundation that I need to tweak. Now, on this side of the face, I wore the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. On this side of the face, I wore the Tatcha Silk Canvas. And I really didn't notice much of a difference between the way that it exaggerated my pores. So yesterday in my 6-hour check-in, I spoke about the pores, and kind of this one is one of those that will definitely exaggerate your pores. By using the Tatcha Silk Canvas, I do feel like it looks a little bit better, but not like a big difference. So this might be something that you need, like a pore filling primer. I feel like this foundation could be a really good foundation, but it is one that you're going to have to tweak to make it good for your skin. This one is one where I have to be very, very mindful of the way I apply it. You know, this is one that I don't want to put any setting spray over top of. This is one that I'm totally fine with doing that. So there's some things that I have to tweak to make it work, but it is actually a really, really good foundation. Once I was able to kind of do a thin layer, like it doesn't look bad on my chin at all. So this is, 12 hours, 12 and a half hours, 13 hours later, and it looks pretty good. So this is just more natural lighting. I just have the 2 umbrella lights sitting in the corner and just the room lights above me. And again, yes, I've lost the coverage, but it's wore off really natural. I mean, you can start to see my skin's really starting to come through, but it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks better tonight than it did last night after wearing it for 12 hours. Recommend, if I were you, I would go into the Sephora. Most of the Sephora stores have it in stock now because Fenty is partnered with Sephora or something like that. So the girl at Sephora told me that majority of the Sephoras will have the Fenty foundation, the new one, in stock. So I recommend going in and getting a sample of it, because this might not be one that you can tweak to make work for you. I don't think this is going to work for everybody. I don't feel like this is a hydrating foundation for dry normal skin that is going to work for every dry normal skin. I don't feel like this is going to look good over any kind of dry patches. I feel like it might get a little bit too cakey if you go in too heavy with it. This is one though, because I do a thin even layer with the brush, I have to go over it with a sponge. This is not one where it will just kind of melt into my skin with the brush. I have to go over it with a sponge because it's a thicker consistency, so it shows every brush mark. So those are my final thoughts on the foundation. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. The next one that will be up is the Kevyn Aucoin Balm Foundation. So I just got my right shade. Fingers crossed that it matches. So that will be up Monday or Tuesday. I'm trying to get as many as I can up. If I'm going to crank out all these foundations before the Charlotte Tilbury launch of her foundation, and number 2, before the Sephora sale, I've got to start popping up videos left and right. So be on the look for those foundations coming up all next week, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to do as many as I possibly can. So fingers crossed I can pull it off. I love you all so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Love you. Bye.